And now we are pleased to be joined on the phone by the sports editor of the San Angelo Standard-Times. It is Paul Harris. How are you, Paul?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Happy playoffs. Out there, the team that obviously draws the most interest is San Angelo Central. And this is a squad that, they have the one loss on the year to Abilene, but they've really bounced back. That big win over Permian really turned some heads across the state. When you watch this San Angelo Central team, what to you sets them apart from maybe other teams in that region?
Well, I think there's a couple things. First, the defense is better than I think a lot of people realize. The offense grabs so much attention. Their defense is pretty good. They held Permian to just 20 points, and that was a huge, key in that game. And then, of course, they've got a TCU committed quarterback, Brennan Wooten, and he makes that offense really go. So there's a dangerous team on both sides of the ball, and they've got experience now. They're 31-5 the last 3 years. 4-2 in their last 6 playoff games. So they've got a lot of experience, and they're just pretty dangerous come playoff time early.
And of course, they're still in the playoffs. They will be taking on El Paso Americas Friday night in Midland. I know you've got your finger on the pulse of this game. You would think that Central comes in as the favorite, but are they in any danger of getting upset by Americas?
I guess I don't think so. I mean, certainly it could happen, but I just think it's a good matchup for Central. Americas is kind of similar to Permian in that there's a real run-heavy team. And Central's got a great run defense. They really contain Permian's attack. They tied for second out in that district in 1-6A. They lost by like 40-something to Permian, So, it seems like on paper, it certainly seems like Central should be a pretty solid favorite.
They should. We're talking with Paul Harris of the San Angelo Standard-Times here on DCTF Live. Get involved in this conversation, hashtag DCTF Live. Dipping down into the 3A ranks, another squad, and maybe you can make an argument between them or another team we'll talk about in a moment, maybe the best threat for a team from your region to make a run would be Wall. They dominate Boyd. They're 11-0 on the year. When you look at this Wall team, do you think they have what it takes to make a deep run, maybe even get to NRG Stadium?
I definitely do. They're 11-0, and they have only really been tested once. That was by Cisco, another great team, and they won that game by 7. But pretty much they've handled every other game pretty easily. I think just the tough thing for them is simply the draw. It looks like that they would get Brock, in the third round, and Brock is the team that ended their season last year in the third round. So I think that's obviously a potential stumbling block. But yeah, definitely Wall is one of the best teams that we have, one of the best chances for us to make a run at state.
They will, of course, take on Littlefield this week, a Littlefield team that just escaped Brownfield last week. Should be a fun game, 7 p.m. Friday night in Snyder. Elsewhere in your area, Sonora rolls on. They will get a big game tomorrow night at the Mustang Bowl in Sweetwater, one of the best stadiums in the state, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'll put it on my list.
Sonora takes on Eastland. Can you give our listeners a bit of a preview of what they can expect from this tussle?
Well, Sonora kind of throws us off their trail every year. They'll go like 2-3 in non-district, and they're kind of flying under the radar. And then they get hot and they roll through district. And last year they went all the way to the state semifinals and upset the number 1 team in the state. And we weren't really expecting that. So Eastland looks like the favorite in this game, but Sonora's just been so dangerous in the playoffs. I think back-to-back runs to state semifinals. So they've got a good offense. And they're just definitely dangerous, in the playoffs.
The other team you've already mentioned, Cisco, being the only team to give Wall a run, but they're going to take on another team from your area in the Coleman Blue Cats, who have their offense has just been off the charts this year. I think this is a Coleman team that, on a statewide level, is flying under the radar. When you look at this Coleman-Cisco matchup, two teams that you've seen this year, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, they're both 10-1. Coleman lost some great kids from last year's team, but they won the state track title in the spring. They got a lot of speed. The only team that's really slowed them down is Post, and Post to shut out everybody in the month of October. So, Coleman is a good team. They're still rolling along, and I think that'll be really one of the best games in the 3A ranks this week.
And then down in the 2A ranks, you guys have a team that is maybe a legit threat to make it to a state title game, and they have a huge test this week. Mason and Refugio, 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Ferris Stadium in San Antonio. This Mason squad, it seems like it's just, lather, rinse, repeat. Mason, you know what you're getting every year, and it seems like this year is no different.
Yeah, same deal. They lost some good kids, and they just plug them right into that great system, that wing T, run-heavy system they've got, and their defense has just been ridiculous. I think they've allowed 54 points all year. So giving up less than 5 points a game, I mean, has been a huge thing. Is just nobody can score on them, and their offense just keeps getting the ball in great field position. But huge test with Refugio. As good as they are, they could definitely get tripped up this round. They ended Refugio's season last year, and both these teams are state powers. Refugio is 9-2, but they've got a couple of tough losses on there. Coming out of a district with Shiner. So, as good as Mason is, and they played in the state final last year, this is definitely a potential stumbling block right here.
Is there a team that you think that from your area? Is there a team that it may not be in the playoffs right now that either got eliminated or didn't make the playoffs? So you go, man, that's a shame. That looked like a team that could have made a deep run.
Yeah, Brady jumps out at me. I maybe foolishly picked Brady to beat Wall in district this year. Heading into the season, I thought that they were the district favorites. They, brought back 7 kids on both sides of the ball, and they'd gone to the state 7-on-7 tournament. And, I really just thought maybe this was the year. Wall seemed like it had lost a bunch, and maybe they were just going to be down. But it was kind of the same story as the year before. Wall was, a few touchdowns better than Brady, and then Brady drew, Breckenridge in the first round and lost 21-14, I believe, last week.
And we're talking with Paul Harris of the San Angelo Standard-Times here on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation, #DCTF Live. And Paul, of course, you are in the cradle of six-man football out there. You guys have
we love our six-man out here.
You have a number of, I would say, 3 or 4 of the best, handful of six-man teams across the state. Let our listeners in on a couple of squads that they need to keep an eye on in the six-man playoffs.
Well, first I'll throw out Rochelle, because that's a team that really, really gets overlooked. They're, about 10 miles east of Brady, and I don't think a lot of people know about them, but they're 10-1. They have one of the, they just never made a real playoff run before, so they don't have a whole lot of pedigree as far as that goes, but, they're 10-1. Their only loss is in the season opener to Richland Springs, and they were within 27-20 in the third quarter in that game, so they've got one of the most dynamic, players in the state, spread back Marty Flores, and I think they got a good draw too. I really think they could make a run to the state final, and possibly who knows who we'll see on the other side of the bracket there. But I really think that the draw is good for Rochelle. They play 11-0 Gordon this week. And then we've got a couple of other just great matchups. Garden City's another team we cover. They're ranked number 6 in the state, and they're taking on Hermely, who's number 5. They're both 10-1. That's in Blackwell, and I mean that could be a really great game. And Garden City won back-to-back state titles a few years back, and so they've got some tradition. And then another one is Sterling City. They're 10-1. Their only loss is to Garden City by 1 point. I've seen them. They've got a great 1-2 punch at running back, and they're taking on Kroll this week, the 2-time defending state champ. So, that I think that's just another awesome matchup. There's really some great six-man matchups this week in the playoffs.
There certainly are. There's always good football going on out there in the greater San Angelo area, and there to cover it all is Paul Harris. He's the sports editor at the San Angelo Standard-Times. Paul, appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the football weekend.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.